Welcome to another Bandology interview. Bandology is a Canadian nonprofit dedicated to more music for more kids via education, collaboration, and community.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Bandology interview. My name is Sandy Wright, the Music and Education Coordinator, and today I have the wonderful pleasure of talking to Jeffrey Acosta. How are you doing today, Jeffrey?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Sandy?
I'm well. Can you tell me and our audience a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So hello, everyone. I am, of course, Jeffrey Acosta. As previously introduced, I am the Education and Sistema Manager for the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra and Sistema Winnipeg in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I run our after-school music program called Sistema Winnipeg, which runs every day after the school day from 3:45 to 6 p.m. And then during the day, on top of that, I am also responsible for a lot of the education programs that happen through the symphony for all of Manitoba.
Oh, wow. So is it sort of across Manitoba, not just centered in Winnipeg, but has that sort of like outreach aspect to it?
The intent is it to be across Manitoba, but of course, it's not as easily accessible for those outside of the city versus to connecting with those in Winnipeg. So it's a bit of a challenge in itself. But being in COVID and having live streams of events and concerts and trying to make things more accessible through the digital world definitely kind of expands our reach a little bit more than it would have otherwise. But the intent is it to be connecting with those across the entire province of Manitoba and not specifically only in Winnipeg.
Yeah, no, I think that's a thing I've been hearing from a lot of people in sort of organizational positions where the COVID has forced them to become even more accessible and usually for the better. So that's been really cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, it's definitely like that. And I think too, to an extent, I think a lot of organizations have always known that this is an area of, connecting with communities that should be explored, but it just, because there wasn't a huge emphasis on it till COVID happened and needing to kind of, distant to be remote and be safe and not as connect as in person as everyone would hope to. It's really been, positive kind of despite all of that. Not that I'm saying COVID's positive overall, but
No, not at
just
all.
for the fact that it's kind of forced everyone to go into this digital space and to connect with those that they wouldn't normally see otherwise.
Yeah. Silver linings, as they say.
Exactly.
Can you tell me a little bit about sort of like the history of Sistema Winnipeg and a little bit like more what it's about and what you guys do?
Totally. So Sistema Winnipeg is inspired by El Sistema in Venezuela. The whole idea about it is to connect with students and to offer opportunities for younger students that wouldn't have access to music education otherwise. And through music education, that's the vehicle that we use to teach social skills to students, to teach them about teamwork, community building, problem solving, independence, mastery, generosity, so many social skills that will help support them in creating their own opportunities later on in life and open doors for them that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The program itself is entering its 11th year. So the program started in, I believe, 2010. The leadership for Sistema Winnipeg's kind of changed every so often. And I've been personally with the program since September 2020, but I've been with the Winnipeg Symphony since March 2019. And yeah, we are located at two main school sites, two elementary schools. We're trying to explore a high school option too right now. And because the program's only 11 years old, we don't actually have anyone that's graduated from grade 1 all the way till grade 12 yet. So it's a bit of an adventure trying to explore that. But that's our main focus of the program, is just always ensuring that the kids feel safe and comfortable in the program. And while we do emphasize music education quite a bit too, I mean, our goal isn't always necessarily putting on a great performance at the end. It's about the process of learning the music at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's I think a lot of the important bits about like what youth programs should be is not so much trying to craft this extraordinary, caring about how it sounds, but not going to the point where it's only about how it sounds and it's not about the learning journey and making sure it's working for kids.
Totally. Yeah. And for us too, as the administration and leadership for the program, and as well as with all of our educators, we of course, want to be able to put on a great performance at the end of the term or at the end of the year. But, things happen, and sometimes that's not always the case. And we do take into consideration just the students' feelings about, pieces and just repertoire and how they're actually progressing through it as well, too, throughout the year. So we're not as strict as being set to a curriculum of, okay, it's September. Here's the 10 pieces you're going to learn this year. By June, we're going to put on this performance where you play through all of it. We'll add in, other pieces throughout the year too. We'll adjust some things for the students based off of their current needs at the time, and just if things are being realistic and actually being able to put on, any type of performance at the moment. So it's not as performance focused as I think people would expect from a regular music program.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love
Yeah.
programs that have that like broader sort of mandate.
Yeah.
But you, apart from being this thing, are also a musician yourself, correct?
Yes, yeah. So I'm a freelance musician in Manitoba. I'm a professional trombone player. I have a degree in jazz performance on trombone from Brandon University, and I graduated in 2014. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, moved there for university from 2010 to 2014. And then when I graduated in 2014, I moved back to Winnipeg. I had a couple odd jobs. My previous big job before working at the Symphony was working at a music store, St. John's Music. So I've always kind of been connected to the music community through work and just through being a freelance musician. But ever since moving back to Winnipeg from 2014, I do quite a bit of sessional work, a lot of sub work, nothing too regular, which I don't mind. It's great to have music work, but I don't mind being a sessional musician and being able to play in different styles whenever it's kind of requested. It's kind of fun for me in a sense. And yeah, that's kind of it there. I mean, COVID's definitely dampened music opportunities quite a bit. I'll be honest, but it's been good. It's a nice mix of doing arts administration work and being a freelance musician on the side.
Yeah. What drove you to start? Like, when did you play trombone, right? So when was the first time you picked up trombone? What was that like moment like?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess when I when I was in grade 5, we would do instrument selection, try out all the instruments, and then kind of put down our top 3 that would then get selected for us to play in grade 6. The band program at the school that I went to, which is actually conveniently one of our Sistema sites. So I actually went to one of the elementary schools before it had Sistema, and now it's kind of surreal being the manager of the program, going back to my elementary school now, and still seeing I still see my grade 8 picture above the water fountain in the school, which a couple students have noticed. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I don't remember anything specific about trying the trombone at the moment. I think my top 3 choices at the time were, I put down trombone as number 1, clarinet as number 2, and flute as number 3. And then actually when I went home that same day, I remember telling my parents, I put down trombone as my number 1 instrument. And funny enough, my grandpa in the Philippines actually was a trombone player when he was going through school. So I thought that was pretty neat in itself. So I guess it was like I was destined to just select it as I was a young child there. But I guess what kind of drew me to the trombone was the fact that it had a slide. Like, it was noticeably different than the other instruments, not having any valves or buttons or anything. It was just a long tube and just continuous air, and just being physically responsible for choosing the note that I wanted to play. It was very, very, very neat.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Both the fact that you sort of have like an accidental sort of family connection, but also the fact that it's like, it's such a physical thing and it's so unique in that aspect. And that's something that I think as you get better, you sort of forget maybe other instruments, the fact that like the thing you're doing is cool and it's like weird and it's like, I'm doing something that's kind of insane. I played clarinet, your second choice, in university, and sometimes I forget it's like I'm just putting air and the reed just goes like this and then noise comes out, and that's sort of like a kind of joy that like I think is important, is tangential, but it like is important when you're like working with students, is like make sure they remember how cool what they're doing is, because it's such a sort of unique thing. So what took you from I want to play trombone, I'm playing trombone, to I want to do something like this sort of for the rest of my life? Like, what was the moment where, what was that sort of like journey to, this is going to be my career like?
Okay, well, I'll backtrack a little bit. So when I graduated in grade 8 and I was coming down to selecting electives for high school, I wasn't actually too sure what I wanted to do for those electives. So what I actually did was I copied the electives of one of my best friends at the time. And I think about this very often because I am pretty certain my life would have been completely different if I didn't do this. But I copied her electives, and I remember the electives being band, arts, foods, and nutrition. And the only one I got into in high school was actually band. So I just went in it because I didn't want to be alone. And I feel that kind of ties into the whole aspect of music education and the whole, idea of, it being so much more collaborative and community building. Because
Hmm.
if I didn't have that connection with my friends in grade 6 to grade 8, like I 100% probably wouldn't have selected band going into grade 9. So I was put in band in grade 9. I loved it. I loved all the teachers. And, I was just asked to join, like the jazz band and the jazz improv and all these other band oriented classes. And just kind of my interest just built from there with the support from the teachers. That was probably a huge factor to why I wanted to go into music as a career. And then when it came down to going into grade 11, grade 12, when, I was needing to, make a decision about what I wanted to do after high school, I I just came up with maybe I could be a music teacher, maybe I could be someone who inspires young students, just like how my music teachers did in high school. And they were so great. They were very supportive of anyone that wanted to be in band at the high school, and very supportive of anyone that wanted to continue on with music education and university and post-secondary too. So yeah, I decided at the point I was filling out applications. It was a bit of a tough discussion to have with my parents, coming here as immigrants from the Philippines in the early 90s, 1990s. They moved here thinking that, I would go into something not in the arts, and it was a bit of a tough conversation that I had to have with them, that this was a career that I wanted to do. And at the time, I actually wanted to go into music to be a teacher. But when I actually got to university, I decided to go into the performance side of things instead. And I told myself I would do the 4-year music performance degree at Brown University, and then I would go back and then do the 2-year after ed degree. But by the time I went through the 4-year degree at university for the jazz performance degree, I ended up just telling myself, okay, I think I'm just tired with school. I just want to work and just kind of live my life and move on from this chapter. So I don't have an education degree. It's still crossed my mind to maybe go back or maybe do like a post-bac degree, something where it can be flexible around my work. But yeah, that's kind of what led me to doing music, I guess, from picking it in elementary school all the way to kind of university.
Yeah, no, that fostering in like high school of like having a supportive teacher environment is key to so many people. Like I know in my own like professional life and personal life that like that's what like went, oh, I can do this, and there's like an end tunnel to this, and also it's really, I love it, and it's a great place to be. Especially that community aspect of like feeling like you belong somewhere is a thing that I hear a lot. And I don't know, I felt when I was in high school. And so that's really cool that that sort of resonates in your thing. And it is a complicated field to decide to pick. There's sort of a leap of faith and a sort of moment of like bravery that you have to do to step into that. And it isn't for everybody, is the other reality. It doesn't work
Yeah.
for everybody. So I'm glad that you sort of like kept going and kept wanting to like pursue it, and sort of obviously you've like landed somewhere where you're like doing stuff that you're invested in, sort of with that combination of like educational stuff and also performance, which is extraordinarily awesome. You did talk a little bit about how those teachers sort of like guided you. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some other mentors or major influences you have musically, or just in like how you sort of like grew up as a musician?
Yeah. Well, a lot of my inspirations for continuing with music have definitely been, my middle school band teacher, DJ Oaks Monroe, my high school teachers, Brian Zimmerman and Jacqueline Loganberg. Those were probably the biggest ones too. And I know it's kind of weird in a sense because they were the ones that really invigorated my love for music. But it's like the second I got to university and I was in this mindset of, okay, this is what you're doing for the next couple of years. Like everything you're doing is music oriented, music focused. And there was like a shift in my mind where I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do 100%. Like I know why I'm here. Like I love what I do every single day. This is incredibly important to me. And yeah, that's probably probably those 3 teachers, probably the biggest ones. I mean, I do have there's other people that have definitely impacted my life too, but I would still say that those 3 have been very influential. Oh, I guess I'll add to my trombone instructor at university, John Helmer, who's retired from music due to some other complications. He's now a healthcare aid worker, so he's out there on the front lines now. But he's been very supportive of me throughout my university degree as well too. We got very, very close. We would see him once a week. He would actually drive all the way out from Winnipeg to Brandon once a week to teach all of our lessons. And then occasionally we would go out to dinner and just kind of hang out too. So he was someone who was very relaxed in his approach, very patient and understanding. So I would definitely include him as someone who's been very inspirational. And I guess more recently too, outside of my education from grade 6 to university, I guess more recently, someone that I've been admiring and have an inspiration of being like is actually my colleague Brent Johnson at the Symphony. Brent Johnson is the director of education and community, and over the last year or so we've been working very, very closely together. And it's funny too, I remember adding him to Facebook when I was younger and in like high school or university, and being like, okay, this guy like knows what he's talking about for music education. He's so like, he has such a reputation in the music community that's someone that I would love to strive to be like at some point in my career and in my life. So it's a bit surreal now to actually be working so closely alongside him and to get to connect with him on a regular basis, get to work towards the same goals as him within the symphony and within Sistema Winnipeg. And it's just been amazing to have gotten to work alongside him as much as I have over the last year or so.
That's super cool. That's sort of like, that's a person, and then you're next to that person.
Totally.
That's really cool.
It's very surreal. Yeah, it's almost like, because I'm only 20 years old as well too, and being a manager, I think I'm probably one of the younger managers at the symphony. So it's very reassuring to know that he believes in me as much as he does. Because I mean, there's times where, you know, being 20 years old and having a manager title, like I do feel that there's almost like this pressure to perform in a sense, you know, with the title of having a manager too. And, you know, while I'm not gonna not acknowledge that, you know, it's still a learning process for me too, now having so much more responsibility, I love every moment of it. And it's just very reassuring to know that someone like Brent believes in me along the way and is willing to support me and to help me grow and learn. So that's super important to me.
Yeah, that's super cool. So that's wonderful that you have like that sort of like positive like working relationship, and it helps you sort of like deal with the challenges that are like upfront. Because it's like, you know, any kind of job, hey kids, any kind of job is complicated, and it's going to be more complicated than you expect.
Exactly.
No matter what you do, from fast food to like running an orchestra program. And I've done a lot of them in between. Can you, obviously you've sort of randomly managed to work with someone you always admired, but do you have any other like career highlights, either in like the performance side or like the teaching side, that stand out to you over your sort of like time as a professional musician or like as a student?
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the more recent career highlights is being able to successfully maneuver the Sistema Winnipeg program during COVID. That's probably one thing that I'm very, very proud of successfully kind of maneuvering, you know, not having too much managerial experience till September of last year. Like I've dabbled in it a little bit, but not as in depth. But being able to successfully help maneuver the program from September to June has been something I'm very, very happy of doing, and so proud of being able to continue that work with Sistema Winnipeg going forward. So that's what I would have to say for the arts administration side of things. But as a performer, I guess one career highlight would be the fact that I've gone on tour across Manitoba with a band in Winnipeg. It's a brass band called the Dirty Catfish Brass Band, which I sub in with quite a bit. We do like party dance covers, originals, and just an energetic group of people that dance on stage while they have fun, play music for an audience that wants to be there and just listen to it. So we've done tours across Canada. Some of the tours before COVID were going to Toronto and Montreal, and not Montreal, Toronto and Ottawa. Played like a couple shows there. We did shows across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, and it was just amazing. And at times I just couldn't believe that I was actually in a different province getting to play music with some good friends of mine and just having fun. And it just didn't feel like a job. You know, it was just making music and just hanging out with my friends. And then we would just go to a different city, different town, and just play for a new group of people. It was absolutely amazing. And the mountains of BC are beautiful. So many beautiful places in Canada. It was amazing. And those are moments that I'll always cherish for sure.
That's awesome. That feels like a sort of a dream. It's like you just get to go around Canada and play music. That sounds super fun.
Totally. And I think too, when I was younger, I would never have thought that I would get an opportunity like that to, meet some great people, play in a band, even as a sessional sub musician too, to play with them and to just go on tour. It's it's an amazing experience too, and I'm very, very thankful for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Our sort of big question, for like philosophically, I guess, is why is music education important, either to you or just what you think of music education's importance, sort of generally?
Yeah. Well, I think music education is important because you can learn so many different skills from just playing an instrument. Like you can learn problem solving, you can start to learn discipline from such a young age too. You can learn about communication, and it's essentially another language, right? It's another language that you're learning to connect with others. But I think the biggest aspect about music education and why it's important is just this whole idea of collaborative and community building within it, because there's more often than not there'll be times where you're playing music and it's going to be with other people. You're collaborating with other people, you're making that connection with other people, you're making this sense of community with other people too. And I feel like that's why it's so very, very important, especially at a young age, for students to have an opportunity to be in music classes or to have music experiences when they're young, because that's probably one of the first times that they'll ever have to connect with other people and to have fun, like not to say that school subjects itself aren't important or anything like that. Like they're all important in their own ways, but music education just has that extra added factor of it being very collaborative and very community building. If you were to sit in a math classroom doing math work, you're doing it independently on your own. Just everyone's doing the same work as yourself. But in music education, you have someone making a beat, you have someone improvising, you have everyone learning their parts all at the same time, playing together all at once, playing the same parts together, playing different parts that interlock with each other at the same time. And that's why music education is so very, very important to me. And I think I always think back to when I was younger and going through bands. Like I didn't know what I was wanting to do. Like I actually still don't know what I would have done if I didn't have music in my life. And that's why music education is so very, very important to me, because I think my life would be 100% different than what it is now. I definitely don't think I would be as happy as I am now. And there's so many positive skills that you can learn from music education, with collaborative and community, a sense of community and belonging being very, very vital and important and number one.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. That's aligns with a lot of my experience, and like working in music education, that's something I'm always like focusing on, is that like community aspect, supporting the learning that's actually happening and all the sort of soft skills you're building as you go through. Do you have any advice to sort of young musicians or students sort of interested in doing what you do in the sort of career path that you've chosen? Or created, I guess, is maybe the better word to describe a music career.
Yeah, totally. I guess the biggest piece of advice that I would have to say to anyone that's interested in going through music in university is, or post-secondary or after high school or anything like that regarding music, is don't forget why you love it in the first place. Because I think in the arts world in general, it's very easy to get caught up in, okay, like I need to be the best performer ever. I need to be the best player ever. I need to know this person, so I can do this type of work. But I think at the end of the day, like you have to realize for yourself, like why are you here to do music? Like why do you love music? Like why do you feel the way that you do when you play an instrument or you sing or you draw? Like why do you feel that way? And I actually reflect on that a lot to myself too, because especially through university, there was times where I definitely wanted to stop and I wanted to quit, but I would always think back about to why I loved it, why it made me happy, and why it brought me joy in the first place. And I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would tell anyone interested in music, either as a long-term career or on the side, is don't forget why you love it in the first place, because in doing it in university, it can and will be hard at times. It can, like that's the reality of it when you're learning something as intensive as music and super thorough. And, at the same time, when there's all these expectations of, okay, you need to be the best to get the type of work, that's not necessarily always the case, right? Like networking and getting to know people is just as highly valued and needed as needing to be good on your instrument. Like it goes hand in hand at the same time. And at the end of the day, that can be very straining and stressful on your mental health, but you just have to always remember why you love music in the first place. Like, why are you here? Like, why did it bring you joy? Like, what do you feel whenever you play that instrument? Or what do you feel when you do anything music related? What do you feel when you listen to music? Like, it's so important to just think back and just reflect on why you love it as much as you do.
Yeah, no, that's one of the best pieces of advice I've heard, is like, you got to remember, because music school, it does do things to like how you perceive what you're doing in the industry. It can be hard to like reconnect with that. And I have teachers who've talked about that, and I've had a bunch of peers who have experienced it, who's like, yeah, I haven't played my instrument in 2 years, but I'm picking it up now because I just remembered why I liked playing it so much in the first place.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
And I'll even admit too, and I'll add on to my response that COVID was very hard for me, not having music as an outlet regularly. Like, it was hard for me, being here in this interview. It was hard for me, and I really struggled with, like, should I continue with music after COVID? Like, what? Like, who knows when COVID will be over? Like, it's been so long since I've connected with other people, since I've felt as a part of a music community during COVID, because I haven't seen anyone. Like, it was all very, very hard. But I would just always reflect and just think back to, why I love music, why I like listening to music, why it makes me feel special, and why it makes me feel happy and brings me joy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you were able to like make those connections, because it's been hard. It's been a tough time. Generally,
it is not easy.
Losing that aspect, and I've been lucky where I am. I've still managed to play with people, but I haven't managed to play for people, and that's something that I'm
totally
never really thought I'd miss, because it wasn't my super focus in university. And now I'm like, I miss playing for shows for people and having them listen, and that connection I miss.
Yeah. And I'll add too, I had my first in-person gig during the pandemic, actually on September 3rd. And it was in an outdoor venue. The venue requested everyone to be double vaccinated for admittance. And that was actually the first day too that Winnipeg allowed people to dance in double vaccinated required venues. So just to be there on the stage and to play the first song, and everyone just immediately got up and started dancing at the first song of our first set was just amazing. And that like really invigorated my love for music again, and helped still remind me, like, this is what I do. Like, I love the feeling of being on stage. I love just being able to bring joy to so many other people too. And it's, COVID was hard, but that one performance a couple of weeks ago definitely reminded me of why I love music as much as I do.
That's awesome. I'm very envious that you had that gig. That is so cool.
I'll stop talking about it.
No, keep talking about it. I need motivation. So the last thing we're going to do a little bit is our fast 5 kind of questions, which are just like, upbeat, fun, quick answer. If you want to explain an answer, I might ask for an explanation if the answer is really weird or cool or interesting.
Gotcha.
But they're just sort of for fun. So our first fast 5 question is favorite movie soundtrack.
Ooh. Lately, it's been Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I think that's the title of the movie. Yeah, the recent Marvel movie that came out. Yeah, I saw it the other day. I love the soundtrack. It was so good. I have it on my Apple Music playlist already, so it's amazing.
I need to pay more attention. I saw it, but I saw it in a drive-in, so I lost some of the experience, and I need to like go and listen to that soundtrack, because there are moments I was like, "That's really good," and then
it's really good. I love it. Yeah.
Question 2: instrument you wish you played.
Okay, people might find this surprising, but I've always had a strong affinity towards soprano saxophone and oboe. If I had the opportunity to learn those in grade 6, I would have probably chosen oboe, I would say. Yeah, I just love the sound of it. It's so like bright, and yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
That is the first time I've heard someone say I want to play oboe.
Probably especially from a brass player.
That's very true. That's interesting. Oboe is very cool. It's also one of those instruments that's never around when you're a kid, because it's so hard to like maintain, and the reeds are expensive and hard to make, and they don't have them in programs. So it becomes such a niche, but it's so cool. I cannot play it. I tried. The oboist could play my clarinet. I could not play his oboe to save my life.
Yeah.
Question 3: do you have a hidden talent, and what is it?
Oh, geez. Trying to think. Now I'm like, oh, I don't feel special because I don't have any hidden talents. Oh no, I'm exposed.
It's okay. If I was in any other industry, I'd be able to say I play guitar, but I can't, because
I know
that's what I do for work.
No, it's like I can't say I play trombone because I said that already. Ooh.
Did you make a mean recipe?
No, I'm actually a very bad cook. Yeah, I'm an awful cook. I'm not very good. Um, I don't know. Does being able to eat like 4 plates of food at an all-you-can-eat buffet count as a hidden talent? Probably
I,
not.
you know what? We're gonna call it that. We're gonna say that's a hidden
Sure.
talent, mostly because I can't imagine eating that much food at any given sitting.
Oh,
Um,
no, I'm the type of person that if there's an all-you-can-eat buffet where you like plate the food yourself, like I'll go up and like start up by like plating 4 different plates of food, bring it to my table so I don't have to get up again, and then I'll just like go to town on all of those. And then that's it. But I don't know if that's a talent or not. I don't know. I can eat more than the rest of my friends, so
see,
maybe it's a hidden
it's
talent in itself.
impressive. It's
Yeah,
impressive. Let's say it's impressive and count it as that.
beautiful.
What's your favorite, question 4, what's your favorite concert you've ever attended?
Ooh. Okay, well, I'll share to answer this question that I'm quite a bit of fan of K-pop music, and I saw a K-pop concert in Toronto in 2019. Actually, yeah. So I flew to Toronto. It was a K-pop group called Red Velvet. So it was a 5 girl group, and it was amazing. I loved it. I never thought that I would ever see a K-pop concert in person,
Hmm.
but little did I know they come to Canada occasionally. So that was great. So I definitely jumped on that immediately and flew out there by myself. Spent 4 days in Toronto, just enjoying the concert. Yeah, and it was great. I loved it so much.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. They seem. I haven't listened to a ton of K-pop. It's been on my list of like things to try to get into more. But those concerts look awesome and super fun.
Yeah, yeah. They have light sticks too, which is made per bands, and every people that have it in the audience like bang their. I don't know. They just like do a motion to like shake the lights to the beat of the music too. So it's like an ocean of lights at the same time as you're watching the performance. It's very cool. Very, very
Oh,
cool.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And question 5. Question 5 is, what's the last show you binge watched? The most pandemic related question. What's the last show you binge watched?
Well, I haven't finished it lately, but I've binge watched the first 4 seasons of Chicago Med.
Damn,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah, it
lot.
was yeah, they were very long episodes and I've lost a lot of sleep over it, but it seemed interesting. And then yeah, the plot line's starting to get a little bit funky for me. Like now the mafia's involved with a doctor at the
All right.
hospital. So, you know, I haven't watched it too much lately, especially because the school year just started, but that was one of the shows that I've been kind of binge watching for sure. And then just other than that, I guess Netflix reality TV shows like,
Yeah.
you know, Love is Blind or The Circle, like those
Hmm.
ones.
Yeah. Good. I don't want to think TV.
Exactly, just mindless.
Yeah, I
Just
don't
to
want
pass
to
the
think,
time.
but I want to feel a lot of tension about the drama that is occurring.
Yeah, yeah. I want to feel better about my situation, so I'll watch other people's dramas to make myself feel better.
Yeah, I mean that's what reality TV is all about.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the end of our Fast Five and most of the interview. Last thing, do you have any exciting stuff coming up, either with Sistema or in your own like career gig in life?
Yeah, nothing as much in my personal career gigging life. As being a sessional musician, it's always, like a week or two ahead of the gig or the day of the gig where I get a call to
Hmm.
go and perform and, just play on a stage. But for Sistema in April, we are doing a collaborative music project with Melody McIver, who's the newest addition to Brandon University. So she's a string player, and we're connecting with her through Groundswell for their 30th year anniversary to create a collaborative music piece with our students in the program. So they're going to be visiting us a couple times in April to June to connect with the students, get ideas, and then we're going to hopefully put together a piece. The intent for that project is to not necessarily have a piece to be performed at the end of June, but it's just the process of being able to connect with someone like Melody and have our students be involved in a creation of a piece for Sistema. So that's probably one big one that we have in 2022 and later on down the line. But more immediately, we are excited to have all of our returning students back to the program later on this month. Right now, we're starting with just the new students to get them started up on the instruments, have them
Hmm.
decide what they want to play, and then we'll bring all the returning students back later on this month. And then just the odd family night concerts throughout the year is always an exciting time, which we're hoping to have in person at some point in February or March of 2022. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, that's super cool. But with that and all that exciting stuff, that's the end of our interview. thank you so much for talking to me.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
I'm glad. I try. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, I've been Sandy Wright, the Music and Education Coordinator for Bandology, talking to Jeffrey Acosta. And we have videos coming out every single Thursday at 7 p.m., interviews, little recorded gigs, all sorts of fun stuff for your viewing pleasure. Tune in over the fall and winter and have a great evening.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organization at bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance, and interviews on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.